Welcome everyone to the very complex topic of color theory. And color theory in Minecraft is certainly quite odd, so I've built a bunch of examples to kind of try to explain it to the best of my ability. I will give you warning, I'm not an art major, I'm none of those things, I'm not an architect, I'm not an art major, but I built for a long enough period of time that I understand most of the basics. So the first thing I like to talk about is this little cube here, because you can think of color theory as having three main axes to how you can think about it. Hue is the easiest to understand. It's just the rainbow. What color do you want? You want red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Like, I didn't put all of them here because I wanted to make it a nice little 4x4. But you get the idea. As you go across, the colors change. We'll call this the x-axis. Then you've got the z-axis, which is tone, also known as darkness. So this is the darkness of the color that you're looking at. So you've got red going to a darker red, to a darker red, to a darker red, almost black. Then once you get to the very end of it, it does become black. The y-axis bottom, the saturation. Saturation is how prominent a color is. So once you get to the top of the tone and the bottom of saturation, you get white. Once you have bottom of tone and bottom of saturation, you get pure black. Anywhere in between is where you can get this range. So you'll have this bright red with the brightest tone and the most saturation on the red hue, and you'll get a color something like this. But then you turn down the saturation a bit, you'll get somewhere in there. I couldn't get a good blend there, so just like imagine. But then if you want to make the tone a bit darker, and I get the stripped mangrove wood. Or maybe I just want to go tone and then down a little saturation, there you go, you get the concrete powder. Maybe a little bit less tone, you get something like that. And you can kind of see how I'm working with the hue and tone with the other colors as well. So the blues get slightly darker. I couldn't find good blue to black there, so I'm just kind of working with what I've got. Green, darker green, black. Yellow, darker yellow, black yellow. Here, very bright, a little bit less bright. I'm not sure why that's there. But a little bit less bright. I really tried. It's close enough with such a limited space. I couldn't get it exact, but it gets you a good idea of what it's supposed to look like, especially with this red sliver here. So we also have the color wheel. So it starts with red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, dark blue, purple, magenta, pink. It's just the rainbow. It's pretty simple to understand. But the color wheel is very important for understanding how colors go together. The first you can understand is the Chromatic Scale. This is black to white with all the grays in between. This is, if you look at tone and saturation, 0 saturation, and the entire tone range. This is just white to black with all the grays in between. And it's the same idea here. White to black with all the grays in between. Chromatic Scale, I'll talk about this later, but it goes with basically everything. Now, you also have adjacent colors, which are, if you look at them, cyan next to green. Cyan is next to green on the color wheel. Red next to orange. Red is next to orange on the color wheel. Pink, magenta next to purple. Magenta is next to purple on the color wheel. These colors work together because they're right next to each other on the color wheel. They blend together very well. They're not super contrasty, so if you want a more contrasty look, something that's going to pop a lot more, you might not want to use adjacent colors. You might want to use something like complementary colors, which do not blend super well. Like, these are very stark color contrasts. This is Perry the Platypus, and this is Impulse SV's Candy Factory from season, it was either 8 or 9, but they're very bright colors. They get your attention very quickly, and the reason is because complementary colors are opposite each other on the color wheel. Orange, straight to light blue. They're opposite each other on the color wheel. Yellow and purple, opposite each other on the color wheel. So they stand out from each other a lot, but if you go straight across the color wheel, they'll contrast each other, but in the right scenario, they look really good together. You can also see why red goes with green, like for Christmas, or pink goes with green, goes with a lot of things. I'll talk about that later as well, but darker blue goes with yellow maybe, or cyan goes with a red. You can kind of look at it like that. It's a very rough color wheel, but you get the idea. And you've also got tricolors. I forget what the actual term is. It's not tricolors, but it's a more complicated form of complementary colors. So you've got, this just reminds me of Easter. Pink, yellow, blue. That's light blue. That's pretty much just Easter colors. I don't know what this reminds me of, but it looks kind of cool. Tricolors are basically complementary colors, but more. So if you look at that example, have red, purple, and green. Red, purple, green. They create a triangle between them on the color wheel. And you've got pink, yellow, and light blue. Pink, yellow, light blue. Creates another triangle, opposite triangle than this one on the color wheel. Pretty easy to understand. You just look at a color wheel. There's actual real color wheels that look better than this example, but I wanted to keep it in Minecraft, so that's what you get. Now, I want to talk about how some of the more basic colors are derived, because when you're in Minecraft, let's be honest, you're working with a lot of achromatic scale. We're gonna work with a lot of grays, a lot of blacks, a lot of browns, a lot of greens as well. So I'd like to talk about those. Let's start with the achromatic scale, and you can just know right off the bat, the achromatic scale goes with everything, because really where you get the contrast is in hue. So more contrast will come from different hues and a higher saturation. So if you have something that's a low saturation, like on the achromatic scale, and doesn't really matter what hue it is, it will go with literally anything. Black goes with every color here. You can see that. Gray goes with every color here. You can see that. Now, this black and gray I don't think go very well together. The achromatic scale doesn't necessarily go with itself. It does sometimes. Like, I think this black would go very well with this white, because you're getting the contrast from the black and the white. But this black might not go super well with the gray. But I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe you decide it does, and they're a little bit less far apart, and they work well. They blend together. So depending on whether you want contrast or blending, you have to decide where on the achromatic scale you want your stuff to be. But it will go with any color if it has significant saturation. Now, brown is a bit of a special case, because brown, if you go into like a color editor, if you take something orange and you turn down the saturation a bit, and then you turn down the tone, it actually gets you brown. It's like you can also get beige from this as well. Like you can get, the beige is kind of just like a further lower saturation, but a higher tone. So it all kind of comes from orange, which is kind of odd and random. And you can get browns that are in different areas of hue. Like this brown is much closer. Obviously, this brown is much closer to orange than this brown. This brown actually has some like, it's still very orange, but it's got a little bit more green undertones. This one's very orange. It's got some green undertones though. You can see that. But a lot of them like this will match up very well with the orange. So brown kind of goes with everything, but only to an extent. Like it goes with everything here if you want it to. It will go more easily, in my opinion. This is more of an opinion thing than solid fact, but I think brown goes better with warm tones. You can make brown work with cooler tones like blues and greens. Greens especially. I'll talk about greens in a bit. And pinks. But I think it works better with red, orange, and yellow just because that's where it comes from in, the color spectrum. Same with beige. Beige is much closer to achromatic though. So beige you can kind of get with whatever you want. So that's everything I had prepared. But I would like to talk about green. Because in Minecraft, green is key. And honestly, so is every color. in Minecraft and real life, because the human brain interprets different colors different ways for a reason, not just because, oh, I like that color. No, I don't mean that. I mean, the human brain interprets different colors based on what they meant to us millennia ago. What did the color green mean to humans when we lived in caves? The color green meant life. The color green meant there was something living, that there was something we could forge, something we could survive off of. That's what green meant. So green is a very positive color in our minds. It means there's something good. Reds, oranges, and yellows, they'll all stand out more than the other colors because in our eyes, they're danger, fire, heat, things to avoid. Sometimes they're good things, but a lot of the times, reds, oranges, and yellows were warning colors, and are still in nature. It's where your eyes are attracted to, but they stand out the most. If you want something contrasty, right away, look towards the reds, the oranges, and the yellows. They're going to stand out the most. If I go over here, this isn't a coincidence. I made this carpet red for a reason, because it stands out. It's a contrasty color. So humans have become very accustomed with seeing green basically anywhere it is, as long as it's like a more natural looking green, not super poppy. Like if you have like a bright lime, like if you have a emerald green, that's a little bit different. But if you have like a leaf green, it's gonna blend in to a lot of colors. It's not going to contrast super hard, but it gives it color. It pulls away from the lower saturations, from the lower tones, and gives it intrigue without hurting your eyes. And that's because green is everywhere. Like, just look at this. Half of it's green, half of it's like a whitey blue. And there's the other color that goes with a lot of things. Blue. Again, unless it's, for some reason, I decided to go like diamond and giant like light blues and shiny blues. Blue is the color of water, the color of the sky, the color of very harmless and often good things. So blues will not stick out as much as reds and yellows will. I should have done an interior in here. But blues are very good at blending in with other colors. Like, if you look at these three adjacent colors, that's going to stand out first. That's going to stand out second. These two just look like they're very calm. They don't stand out much at all. The only reason you're looking at it is because it's in the center of the screen, which is a whole different conversation that maybe I'll make a video on in the future. The purples and pinks are a very interesting story, because purples and pinks are actually very uncommon in nature. At one point in history, having purple dye was reserved only for nobility because it was so rare. It was not a color that people saw really at all. Like, if you were a peasant in the Dark Ages, like, this color didn't exist to you. It wasn't something that anyone ever had unless you were absorbently rich. So pinks and purples and magentas will stand out a lot, but not because they're dangerous. Not in the way that red, orange, and yellow are. They stand out just because they're foreign almost. It's a tough color to work with. If you can figure out how to work with pinks and purples, you're doing well. There you go. There's a very basic explanation. I hope I did it justice. There's a lot to delve into with that. And actually, you know what? I want to show you how I rely on color theory. And we'll look at this build, because this build is very shows very much how my brain works with color theory. Your eyes will be pulled down to the brown if it weren't for the fact that the roof had color. If the roof was white, your eyes would be pulled straight to the bottom, which is another topic for another video, but that's usually not something you want. You want your eyes to be pulled up, they are, because the roof has higher saturation than anything else here. That should give you a basic idea of color theory. How to apply it to builds is far more complicated, and I'm not sure even I could properly express that. Perhaps I will make a video someday about how your eyes are drawn to parts of builds and by what techniques and how you can influence that. But that is very advanced stuff, and I'd like to get through other things first. So if you have any feedback, let me know. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Please subscribe if you enjoyed or if you found this helpful. Share it to anyone you know who might want, more building tips. And thank you so much for watching. And go check out the rest of the playlist if you're interested, and stick around for the next one. Bye-bye.